Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Millennium Motoring, and we're going to be installing that bride seat behind me into my Lexus today. There aren't too many kind of walkthrough videos on how to remove a seat and how to install a seat in this car, so I figured I'd do one. There is a really awesome thread on myis.com, which I'm going to link below in the description, so check that out. It's a really good picture-by-picture detail of installing a bride seat with side mount rails onto a slider. This seat is probably about as old as the car, so it's early 2000s, I think. And I had to do some modifications to the sliders that I got. I bought some OMP sliders. I had to do modifications to the handle, and I had to do modifications to the bracket that mounts to the floor. So for everything being universal, if you buy something universal, you're going to have to cut it up, and you're going to have to modify it a little bit to make everything fit. Obviously, this is an old seat, but the process is the same. The sliders and the bracket are all mounted together, so the seat's ready to go. It just needs to be cleaned up a little bit, and then the driver's seat needs to come out, and then some other stuff has to happen inside the car, but I'll show you when we get there. Now we're going to start and unbolt the factory driver's seat. So you're going to want to leave the battery plugged in for the first part of it, and then right before you remove the seat, you're going to want to unplug the battery. We'll get to that in a minute, but essentially what you want to do is you want to move the seat backwards to expose the front two bolts. There's plastic caps. You're going to pull the plastic caps off, unbolt those two mounts to the floor, and then you're going to move the seat forward. And then you're going to unplug the plastic caps on the back and undo the rear bolts for the seat. And then once you have the rear bolts undone, kind of center the seat. And then from that point, you're going to want to unplug the battery. And you're going to want to do that because the driver's seat has an airbag in it. And you don't want the airbag to go off when you're pulling the seat out. So the system takes about 10 minutes to relieve all power that's going to be going to the system. Once you unplug the harness for the airbag, you can also unplug the harness that goes to the power motor in the seat. And once you have those two things unplugged, then you can pull the seat out. Then here and here you've got two small Phillips heads screws. And out we go. And that is going to expose underneath the motor for the seat and the airbag module. So you can see in here there's a yellow loom, and that is going to be for the airbag sensor and an older seat. So there's that too. We have the seat out. We're going to pull the buckle off and put it onto the aftermarket seat. So you got two more of those tiny little screws here and here. Put them on there pretty damn tight. As all safety equipment should be. Okay. And it does have a... Alright, so as you can see, we are mock mounting the seat just to see kind of how it's going to fit. I sat in it and kind of adjusted it to the position where I wanted it. So everything's mounted up on the bracket and the rails. The slider handle is mounted. Shout out to Kyle for welding that up for me. I had to cut about 2 inches out of it because the rails sit pretty close together. The standard application for those rails is about 10.5 inches of width. The distance between these two rails is about 8.5 inches side to side. So I had to cut 2 inches out of the center of the handle And then Kyle welded it up for me, so thanks Kyle, I really appreciate it. So now we need a nut for the seat belt buckle. Once we install that, all we have to do is install the bride resistor for the airbag sensor. And once that's done, then just stick the 4 bolts in and seat's good to go. Now, for those of you that are wondering, well, is the seatbelt light going to flash because the harness isn't plugged in? The answer to that is no. That sensor is not getting any power, so there's no reason for the chassis harness to go, hey, the seatbelt's not plugged in. But because it doesn't know that the seatbelt isn't plugged in or is plugged in. It has no way of knowing that because it's not plugged into the sensor. So, and the sensor is not able to transmit to the chassis harness that, hey, it's not on. So that light won't come on anymore. But as you all should be wearing your seatbelt while you're driving the vehicle, it shouldn't matter anyway. The universal mount was not so universal. The fronts fit perfectly, but the rears were like way too stood up. So we spent some time trying to mold it and try and make it fit flat to the floor. But yeah, it's in there, it's mounted, it's good. We are just waiting on FedEx to ship me the resistor to put in the airbag. But for right now, we can drive it around the block and it'll be nice. So this is the bride resistor. So we've got 2 wires right here, and we have a resistor inside some heat shrink. And this is the installation guide. What they're asking you to do is, this is the chassis loom for the airbag. And what they're having you do is solder the resistor onto that part of the harness. Now, that's going to work, but I think it's going to look a little weird. And since I'm not going to be using my stock seat again, I decided to cut the connector off of the seat. And we're going to solder this onto that and then just plug it into the car. We got that solder, we're going to plug that in, and hopefully this will work. But you're going to want to plug this in first and then reconnect your battery before you turn the car on. So now we have it plugged in. It's a little bit janky, so I'm going to get some kind of sleeving and kind of put it over this to protect it, but not doing that right now. We'll do that later. But yep, as you can see. So yeah, the airbag light down here is not on, so all the airbags work. Seat is in, and that is it. All right, thanks for watching. It took a little bit longer than I wanted to because FedEx took a little while to get the resistor to me, but other than that, yeah, it's pretty quick and easy to install the seat. Hopefully this guide helped somebody. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm going to leave a link in the description to the forum thread on my IS, detailed pictures and whatnot, and hopefully this video helped you guys with the airbag resistor install and couple other things. But yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe and like the video, and peace out.